In today's session, we will do a bank product return that includes a head of household. So we're going to work on John Test. First thing you would do is click on tax returns on your tax software. Then you would click on new return. You would enter the social security number twice. Then it should automatically take you into the interview. So I'm switching to the interview. Okay, the first thing you would do is select how the person is filing, and John is filing as a head of household. First and last name, date of birth, and his occupation, and then has he been disallowed EITC previously, and we answered that no. He lives in the United States. This is his address and his 2 telephone numbers. Now we're going through the identity validation. We have a copy of his driver's license. We have the issue date and the expiration date in the state of Texas. And we're doing level 2 in-person validation. So we're going to click next. Is this return eligible for any kind of special processing? And we answered that no, so none. And you can answer these questions as far as does John want to donate to the presidential election fund? Is he blind, disabled? Can he be claimed by someone else as a dependent? All of that is no. Does he have any dependents? Yes. Okay, so we already added Susie Johnson onto the return as a dependent. We're going to go ahead and add another dependent, so we click on edit. And we're going to put a son on the tax return. So over here, we will select how many months he lived in the household. 12 months, so he can qualify for an earned income tax credit. Select his child that lives with him. Select this box for the earned income tax credit, so we'll calculate on the tax return. So U.S. citizen, under age 19. John provided more than 50% for his upkeep. No one else can claim this child. And the child did not file a tax return. So we will save this information. Now we have 2 dependents on the tax return. We click next to go to the next screen. Now we're looking at income. We've already entered 1 W-2 for John. I'm just going to change that a little bit. Let me see. And now I'm going to add another W-2. This is how you would add another W-2. Click on W-2. Add. Okay, so we have added another W-2. Then we're going to say that he has some interest from the bank. So we'll click on add. Then we will click next. So they're asking about any assets that he may have sold in the previous year. We'll click next. Any adjustments to income. Just look at these screens carefully. And if any of this info applies to your client, you just click in the box next to it and it will automatically include that into the tax return. Click next. Itemized deductions as far as a Schedule A. If any of this applies to your tax client, you just click the box next to it and it automatically pull that into the Schedule A. Extra questions, and you just look over this screen here, and if any of this applies to your client, just click it and it will automatically include that info into the tax return. That's the purpose of the interview. The interview is to pull in all of the forms that are necessary to help you complete the tax return. It's asking, do we need a state return? Here in the state of Texas, we do not file state returns, so we click that no. Okay, now we're finished with the interview, so we click on finish, and it will turn this into a tax return. Okay, on the left, we have our current AGI of $23,100. That's one W-2 for $20,000, one W-2 for $3,000, and one 1099 INT for interest for $100. And currently, we're looking at a refund for $9,483. So now we would just go through the return and get the red out. Normally on the main info, the only thing that you would need to do is just enter the dates. And we have already entered the date on this return. I'm going to change it. Let's see, 129. Now we'll go back up to the top and make sure that we have the proper bank product selected. Let's see, we got John. And at this office, we use Republic Bank. So we have bank product selected and we have Republic Bank selected. This office does not offer fee collect because our fees are collected through the bank product, traditional bank product. So this button, this radio button here should be selected as no. Okay, now we go over here to the form tree and I see red on the ACA page 1. So I click that to go to that page. And this is what we call working in forms and getting the red out. And basically it wants to know if the newly added dependent had health insurance for the entire year, which the dependent did because they were included on the dad's health insurance. So we click that and that page turns green. Now we go over to the EIC worksheet. And it's asking questions about the dependents. Do they have valid Social Security numbers? Did they live with the taxpayer for the entire year? And do we know anyone else that can claim the dependent? And that's a no. Got to be careful with these questions because if you answer these questions wrong, it will take the EIC off of the tax return. Does this dependent have a qualifying Social Security number? Yes. And as you can see, that form turned green. Now we're on the W-2. Go to the W-2, just click it in the form tree and see what is missing. It's asking, have we verified the amount of taxes paid on this W-2? And we have. So only thing we have to do is click that box and it turns green. Now, some employers or some employees, if they pay into a 401k, they work for like the federal government or state government, military, boxes 3, 4, 5, and 6 may be different than what has calculated within the tax software, because the tax software automatically calculates 3, 4, 5, and 6 boxes. If those numbers, when you look at the W-2, if those numbers are different, the only thing you do is you go up here on the W-2 and you click into this box to take the calculations off of 3, 4, 5, and 6, and then you could go in and you can type in the numbers as they appear on the W-2. The same thing goes off applies to the state portion of the W-2. If the numbers are different, you click in this box and you go in and you enter the information for the state if it includes a state return, and the state return info would go here. But we don't have a state, so we're going to leave that portion alone. Now we're going to the second W-2. Is asking, is this the address that's shown on the W-2 or has the taxpayer moved? We're going to click here. Just say that is the address that is shown on the W-2. It's asking us to verify the amount of wages. We have verified, so we click this box. That's asking for the name of the employer. Don't worry about the name code. That will fill based off of the information that we put into this box here. And as we can see, the zip code, once we type that in, the city and the state will fill for us. And that W-2 has turned green. Now we're going to go up here and we're going to change the street address. We're going to say that this W-2 had a different address on it. So we're going to click here and then we can go over to the W-2 and we can change this information. It's actually just that easy. Now we have made that change. That is green, so now we will go back to the form tree and look to see if there's anything else red on the dependent on Susie. So let's it's validating the relationship. It's his son, so yes. 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 Make sure that you read these questions carefully and respond appropriately so that the EIC and the child tax credit will calculate onto your client's tax return. Okay, so now the only thing that's left is we go to the Republic application, and this client wants to apply for the Easy Advance that's offered through Republic Bank. So we will click here that he wants to apply for the advance. It automatically defaults to the advance that he's eligible to apply for. So if his refund is $2,500 or below, he can apply for the $800 advance. Since his refund is more than $2,500, he can apply for the $1,250 advance. He's the one that's responsible for the advance. Does he give permission to share his information? He has to in order to apply for the advance, so that's yes. he wants to get his advance on a printed check and he wants the refund on a printed check. So that would be an RT. If he wanted it on direct deposit, it would be an RTDD. If he wanted it on the debit card, that would be the XR card. Those are the three disbursement options as far as if they want the fast cash advance. Depending on some banks, they call it the fast cash advance, the easy advance, or the cash advance. It just depends on the bank what they call it. Those are the disbursement options: printed check, direct deposit, or debit card. This person wants a printed check. We don't worry about this one here because it says if easy advance only is selected, how should the funds be dispersed? So if they were just doing a traditional e-file and wanted to apply for the easy advance, the only disbursement options would be the XR card or the debit direct deposit. If they were doing a direct deposit, routing number, account number, and then we would have to go to the main info and enter that information again. If the client wanted Protection Plus, you would click here. If the client wanted to be notified by text message when their check or their direct deposit was ready, you would just click here for yes. And you see the line turn red. So now we'll need to go to the main information sheet and enter a cell phone number, and then it will pre-fill. Now we can go back to the Republic app, which is the bank application. Just depends on what bank you're working with. And the cell phone number has pre-populated. Now we're just validating their information again. And that's that. Now we go to the disclosure and just make sure that we read this info to the client. And click here saying that we have read this info to the client. Now we're ready to run diagnostics. There's no errors in this return. So now the next thing would be to print and get signatures. Okay, so we have a copy of the tax return printed. Now we can create the e-file. E-file created successfully. Now we will save this return and close it. Now we will go to the e-filing system. We will click on Submit e-files. We will click the box next to the social and click Continue, and that tax return will be sent to the filing center to be forwarded to the IRS to be acknowledged and processed. This concludes this training session.